Mr. Huntsman.
Here.
Mr. Bruggeman.
Here.
Mr. Triplett.
Here.
Mrs. Detline.
Here.
Mr. Miller.
Pledge allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let us pray. Our precious Heavenly Father, we are so thankful for each and every day that you bless us with. We are thankful for the opportunities that you give us to be an example of your word, to follow your guidance, and to look to you for strength and wisdom. Father, we pray that you would be with each and every one of us as we make decisions for the best of our students, our staff, and the community. Father, we pray that you would be with the children around the world, the children here in Barnesville and the community, and be with them each and every day. Help to provide good examples for them. Father, we ask that you continue to be with us and bless us. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Is there any correspondence? No. We need approval of the agenda.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Triplett, and a second by Mr. Huston.
Mr. Bruggeman.
Yes.
Mr. Triplett.
Yes.
Mr. Huntsman.
Yes.
Mrs. Detline.
Yes.
Mr. Miller.
Any public participation?
Hey, Scott Hagan.
Would you like to talk
Right now?
if you want to?
Okay, well, I assume this meeting is about a mask mandate coming up. Would that be correct?
Yeah.
All right, so I heard about this last night, so I had no time to prepare really, so this isn't really that well put together, and I don't have anything to give you here, but Scott Hagan, I got 2 kids in high school here. 0.008. Like you remember that number. CDC tests are faulty. This is why they're in admission. You can look this up. It's not a conspiracy. The CDC tests are faulty. They cannot tell the difference between the flu and the COVID. Okay? For whatever reason, they're going to continue to use these tests till December. I have no idea why that would be the case. Masks didn't stop the virus last year. You had them on all year. As much as I wanted to talk and speak out against it, I didn't. I didn't know how to if I wanted to, but I didn't. You had them on all last year. We still had COVID throughout. Number 3, fact, seasonal flu. The seasonal flu is more deadly to kids than COVID. This is a fact. And again, I don't have this to give to you. You can look this up on your own. Okay? I say that because in past years, I can remember through this school district when we had a heck of an outbreak of flu during our time, right close to Christmas time. I remember thinking, before any of this, why don't we shut down the school for a week or 2 to help us out? We didn't do that. We didn't wear masks. Nobody even thought about a mask at that time. And again, remember what I said about the flu being more deadly to kids than COVID is. Overall, kids are having only mild symptoms if they're having any. This is overall. How many countless kids test positive, stayed home, and never even developed symptoms? My kids were home several times last year on quarantine, never developed any symptoms, and I know this happened to many other kids. And I know that we do these in a reactive manner to try to, stop that. But how many times, time and again, a kid would test positive, never have any symptoms, never led to any symptoms? Where's a study, first of all, on masks that tell me that they work? If they worked, as much as I hate wearing that, I would wear it in a public setting, at church, wherever. If somebody would show me this works and show me the data, then I would be more open to, thinking about something like that. There is none. Okay? So what's the study also on the psychological damage we're doing to our young people? with these masks. I shouldn't have to tell you guys. You probably, most of you thought this yourself. Especially with the young little kids in development stages. Can't see the teachers' faces. I can't see other students' faces. Okay, number one, we won't know about this for years. Until they're older, we may not see what the effects of this is. But you have to just be realistic about it. There has to be an effect on it, especially the little kids. Okay? Children survive COVID. An unvaccinated child is less likely to get COVID than a vaccinated 30-year-old. It's a fact. Masks have been shown to carry numerous amounts of bacteria and viruses, but they have not been shown to reduce the rates of COVID. Masks worn by civilian population, not in a hospital setting, do not stop the spread of COVID. Can I shut this door? Quickly, I want to give you thoughts on a local level. Example, I painted all 3 gyms here, right? I believe 2 of them, I painted the ceilings, right? With paint. I'm spray painting the ceilings with black paint. I've got a $50 respirator on to try to breathe while I'm doing this, okay? So why do I bring this up? Even with that $50 respirator, at the end of the day, when I would take the respirator off or after the job, I would be blowing black snot for a couple hours after that. How much bigger is a paint particle than a virus particle? I didn't have time to get those numbers, but I'm pretty sure the virus is a 0.4 micron size, and the paint particle's got to be, it's huge compared to that, and it's still, if a $50 respirator got in. Now, mostly that's probably because if it's not sealed perfectly around your face, you're breathing it in. You watch kids, I'm coming to school here, I'm watching kids get on the bus, and you've already got a mandate with masks on bus. Okay, I get it, fine. But you can see him outside before they get in. I saw a kid shaking his head, putting his mask up, going in. Okay? With what kind of mask? Not a respirator or a N95 mask. I was told this analogy by Kurt Holstrom. If anybody knows Kurt Holstrom, he lives right down the road here. Kurt is a medical director at Cardiology Registry Consultants. I can provide his phone number if anybody would like to call and verify what he told me. And this was over a year ago he told me with this analogy. It says the virus compared to a bacteria is like the fly on a windshield of a semi-truck. The fly being a virus, the semi-truck being a bacteria. Okay? You get the analogy here? The N95 masks are designed to keep out bacteria. Matter of fact, I think a lot of that's on the label of N95 masks. If I'm saying N, it may be N95, but I apologize. He told me that, and then he said, because I texted him last night, he said, it's like the N95 mask is like trying to catch marbles with a chain link fence. I said to him, you mean that even the N95 mask? And he said yes. And he actually told me to ask you if you all passed or failed sophomore biology class. The CDC is ignoring the 3 studies that they paid to have done by the NIH that provides viruses go through every material mask. No one can make this virus go away. I know your intent is at least to slow it down. I get it. It's not going away, and I don't think it's probably never going to go away. Okay, it's probably here to stay, even with these shots. By allowing school boards to make these decisions and declarations, not only have we adversely and negatively impacted the lives of our kids by forcing masks on them hours a day, and by the way, my kids would come home and talk about they didn't get a mask break that day. The teacher didn't let them have a mask break. I mean, when I hear that, when I'm out working, you got glasses on, I notice, and you got glasses. glasses on it, you can't see because it's fogging up the glasses. But to not be able to pull it away for a little bit to get a break, sometimes, that was heartbreaking to hear that. We are making a larger statement when the school boards make these decisions. We're saying that parents don't know best. By implementing these mandates, school boards are separating parents and children and stripping away the rightful necessary duty of those parents. Mandates replace the parent with the state. Listen, why don't you just leave it optional? That's why I'm here. But more importantly, and I'm not going to read the rest, I'm here because I'm seeing a trend and where this could lead to. As much as I hate the mask, okay, fine. I hate it, but I'm seeing what this may lead to really soon. And I don't have to tell you what I'm referring to. Because if we allow this again, then down the road, you're going to make a decision on another one. And I'll be really loud about that one if you mandate a vaccine. And I know that's coming. Stop this now. Let it be an option here. Nobody's making you do this, to my understanding. There's no governor this year making you do this. Am I right or wrong at this point?
That's correct.
So this is a board decision this year. Last year, I knew that if I tried to fight you, it was well, it's the governor's telling you to do it. I knew you really didn't have a reason, but this year, you do. It's on you guys right here to make that decision. I started with saying 0.008. If I can find the paragraph here. 0.008, and I can't find it, but there was 4.2 million students or young people last year that tested positive for COVID. Of those 4.2 million, 0.008, not 0.8, not 0.08, 0.008 died from COVID. Those are real numbers, and I quickly had to put this together last night. I don't have to go look it up. So that's how I'm going to end it. This is again not as bad to a kid as the flu was. So keep that in mind when you make your decision, please. Don't, and at the worst, don't put them on the little kids. My kids are in high school. Overall, I know they can handle it. But these little kids with developing lungs, and I talked about before, don't put it on the little kids. And they're thinking, well, how can we do it one place or another? Well, listen, you could have an opportunity, and this is kind of getting out there, but you could have an opportunity here where you could be the first school to do a science experiment. If you end up voting masks, and I didn't stop it, this is what I'm getting at. You could have one building or one group of kids wearing masks for a month, and not another group. And you can actually watch what happens with tests and see if there's an effect or not. You could be the first one to do something like that. It could be everywhere, and Barnesville could be the leader in it. I don't know why another school hasn't done this yet. I'm not asking you to do that because I'd rather you have an option. But if you decide to go through something, think that through. Have another little meeting without me in it. Decide how to conduct such a science experiment to find this out. Put an end to it, right? You can do it maybe in a better way than I'm thinking. But don't put it on the little kids at least the grade school kids. And that's another building here, right? You could say we'll do it in high school because we had a cancellation of the game on Friday already. The second week of school, I saw this coming, but the second week of school already, and we're talking about the mask. But I plead with you not to do any mask, but if you think you're going to do it, leave it off the little kids. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So do you want to have a discussion, or do you?
Yeah,
Okay.
I do have a mask resolution for the board's consideration. I do want to give the board some information that you have in your packets there. Currently, as of today, we have active cases
2 at the middle school for students, 5 at the high school for students, active staff cases, 1 at the middle school, 1 at the high school, and then another, which would be a coach. We do have quarantine students, 1 at the elementary, 4 at the middle school, and 15 at the high school. I think the issue, kind of the outbreak on the football team is kind of what prompted this emergency meeting. If you'll go to this information right here, this is what we're operating under. If somebody has COVID, these are the guidelines that we're operating under. They have to isolate for 10 days. At least 10 days have passed since the symptom onset, and at least 24 hours have passed without fever or without the use of fever-reducing medications, and then other symptoms have improved, and then they can come back to school. If you'll look at the second page, the flow chart there, this is what classrooms are operating by, and they ask you 3 questions. Does the school have all of the following in place? Masking for students and staff, regardless of vaccination status, strategies to maximize physical distancing, at least 3 feet between desks, and then a documented COVID-19 prevention policy. So, the things that we're doing, cleaning, sanitizing, those types of things. So basically, when we're talking about quarantining students, when they're wearing a mask, you can follow the flow chart. If they're not vaccinated, but they're wearing a mask, then we don't, and both parties were, the student that is positive and the student that is not positive, the student that's considered a close contact. The close contact, if they're both wearing a mask and they were 3 feet from each other, then the quarantine student does not have to, the close contact does not have to quarantine. I think that's the biggest difference. When we're not wearing a mask, then we're quarantining all of these students. And I think that is becoming the concern here, as far as, we don't want to head toward a shutdown. We don't want, our substitute teachers and, parapros and cooks and bus drivers, we're on short supply anyway. If we do have to shut down a building or a couple buildings in the district, we no longer have the option to go remote learning and have that count as student hours. So then, if that ends up being prolonged, then we're going to be making up time somewhere, either extending the school day somehow or, adding days on at the end of the school year. So, I don't know if anybody else has anything any thoughts?
The only thing I'm going to say is that I didn't have a weekend this weekend. I spent all weekend contact tracing. Regardless of what my personal opinions on a mask are, and believe me, I can go into a political tirade on what my personal opinions of the mask are. We're operating under what the Ohio Department of Health tells us to do regarding positive cases and close contacts. And we had I had to contact 15 families over the weekend to tell them that their kids wouldn't be able to come to school until next Monday or next Tuesday, depending on their contact date. If we would have had a mask mandate, that number would have been 0. And I just worry that as this expands, it's going to get to the point, at least in my building, where we're going to be sending kids home, and we have no remote learning option, and we don't have that flexibility that we had last year. And I don't enjoy wearing a mask. It's one of the things that I hated most about last year. But at the end of the day, my job as a principal is to make sure that my kids come to school, learn the curriculum, and get prepared for life. And if I'm sending them home and we're not able to teach them remotely this year, then I've lost that power as a principal.
From a middle school perspective, we're currently, we have 7 listed, we'll have 9. I think the biggest thing is when you look at it, much like Scott had said, and I do agree, the masks you see, it's like a flip side. You see one thing, say masks don't work, and then everybody's, well, you have to wear a mask. Okay, I understand that. And it does get crappy, and the water gets really muddy really quickly. The biggest issue, I think, for us as a school is, and Parker, he actually kind of said it best. He says, it's almost like you're playing a game. Right now, we're kind of limited to, we're playing a game with what the state tells us, what the health department tells us, what, everybody is saying. So we're stuck in the middle. We're in that muddy water. The game would be like this. Out of the 9 quarantine that I currently have at the middle school, 2 would be quarantined, the others would not. Those 2 that are quarantined are because of a parent contact or a different contact outside of school. So when you look at that and you're sitting there saying, well, crap, okay, if I play the game and we wear a mask, these kids stay in school. Whether the masks work or not, the way that the guidance is given to us from the state, from the health department, from ODE, whoever you want to call it, when that guidance is given to us, the masks are the only thing that keep these kids in school if they become a contact or a close contact. And that's the muddy part, because whether they work or not is, always debatable. It's always going to be debatable, but the game right now is wear a mask, stay in school, don't wear a mask, get quarantined for, and this is the other thing that we've got to think about, and this is, again, the crappy part. If a child in a home, so as a parent, as myself, if I test positive, my kids have to wait out my quarantine period, then they have to wait out their quarantine period. So out of the 5 people in my house right now, my kids could be quarantined, or one child could be quarantined for up to 65 days by the time it's all said and done with. The only way to prevent that is, if I'm a positive, is for me to move out of the house, stay away from my kids for that 10-day period so that their 10-day period starts. It's a really crappy situation, but I can tell you as a principal right now, we've always talked about this. The hardest thing for us is keeping kids in school, and when they don't have parents at home that take care of that and make sure they come to school, we track them down. The court's now pulling away on the truancy issues that they used to take care of, so now it's back in our hands again. So when you consider that, and you got a child who could potentially be out for 65 days, and we are not authorized by the state to provide remote learning access in different capacities, we're screwed. I mean, it's hard to say, and it sucks, but that's the way I kind of see it. I don't know if that's right or not.
Listen, I'm with you 100% on all this. But I was on the phone all weekend as well, dealing with the sport, the football, everything, just dealing with that crap. And it's frustrating. As frustrating it is, we're at the mercy of these rules, and it's just the way it is. I mean, personally, something's got to change with these close contacts. Nothing's ever going to go back to normal. You're going to have football games, volleyball, everything's going to be canceled at least once every year. It's never going to change. College, NFL, we don't have the luxury of getting a test every day like the NFL guys do or whatever. But anyway, I mean, like you said, I talked to Blake, I said, listen, I know none of these kids want to wear masks, but if they want to play football, they're going to have to wear their mask. That's just the way it is, because this 5 did the close contact and stuff. It's just, because last year, listen, it was worse, but they were wearing their mask all the time, and we didn't have an issue until the end of the year. So, I don't know, I don't like wearing the mask either. Yesterday, my son's 3-year-old, why can't I hug Pat? Why can't we go see Pat? Because he's a close contact of my mother-in-law, so it breaks my heart, and it's just, something's got to change, but until it does, we have to follow these rules.
I mean, I agree with you guys. I've been in medicine for 20 years. There's a reason why we are not allowed to wear cloth masks in the clinical setting, because they don't work. I've been fitted for respirators. It's a 30-minute process to go through and move around and talk and get fitted with multiple different ones just to find one that you have a close fit on. So I fully agree that we're not doing a whole lot of good, but unfortunately, with the close contacts, I think that's why we have to have the discussion, is do we wanna continue with our football games and everything? I think that's where the discussion needs to be, not that we believe that they work or whatever, but it is a game, we have to play the game. I think there needs to be a discussion, at least with the athletes, like, hey, I know it sucks, but if you were in contact with somebody and you had a mask on, you'd still be playing football on Friday versus not. Do you wanna miss out on your senior year or do you not? And I think that's where we kinda need to make a decision of at least where to start with all of it.
I agree with Katie, starting that discussion with the athletes and pushing it at the coaches level. I mean, at the elementary level, right now we're fortunate. But how many stories did you hear last year with the kids, Clint dropping them on the floor, stepping on them throughout the day. Kids are snotting throughout the day and chewing on them and everything else. And I just really struggle, with the idea of us telling the parents what to do, with this right now. I agree with all these guidelines and stuff. It's difficult to make that decision, but I still struggle with telling the parents at this point, what to do with the kids when I'm not sure that I'm completely there myself, so.
I think it boils down to, for us, is just keeping school going.
Right,
At this
right.
point,
Yeah.
keeping the activities going, keeping school going, just trying to be proactive. Right now we're okay, but if this gets worse, are we looking at a shutdown? And we don't have the resources that we did last year. We don't have the authority to go remote like we did last year and have those hours count towards student hours. And, substitutes, those are always difficult for us outside of, COVID.
Right.
And you add COVID and it just complicates the mix. So, we're just looking at wearing masks indoors only. We're not talking about, at the stadium or, anywhere else. It just would be for indoors only. And, we're still able to have all the students come every day. And
Well, I think one thing just to think about too, and this is part of the game, is that if you have one individual, just as an example with Clint wearing a mask currently at the moment, if I am not, and I happen to be a positive, if I'm not mistaken, he's still quarantined for a period of time. So even as an athlete, if an athlete wears a mask, at that particular moment, they could wear one, but the other person screws them, and the other person puts them in a bad place. And that's a hard sell, because you're athletes and we can run that and try it. And like Mr. Hagan had said, there's some options. Maybe we could try differently, but that's where you kind of go with this, is if an athlete wears one, the other guy is not, or the other person is not, you're still getting quarantined, which it really stinks.
Right now in the elementary school, we're lucky right now, and hopefully we stay lucky. But the issue we would run into is we do have a pretty high enrollment right now. And I'm thankful for that. But if we start getting some positives, there's going to be quite a few kids that will be missing a large portion of their instruction. And you think, oh, it's just that kid. Well, at the high school, they can catch up, or the middle school, maybe they can catch up. But if I have 6 or 7 kids out in one class, that teacher is going to be spending a lot of time getting the rest of them caught back up. It's just, I'm not saying to go either way on this. I'm just saying that's a concern of mine. But like you say as well, Aaron, it's are they wearing them properly? For the most part, but there are some that hardly ever do. And so it's a difficult situation, a difficult decision, but I am glad we're at least having a discussion to look at what's best.
In some of the classrooms, I know the kids are back to being real close again. At lunch at high school, Ron, I know they said their kids are elbow to elbow. I mean, we've got them packed in the lunchroom, for stuff. I mean, so even on that scale, are there things we could be doing too, you know, to try to separate back out again that we followed last year maybe?
We're numbered in the cafeteria, so there, let's say one kid was positive, the number 2, so then it would just be 1 and 3 right now in the lunchroom, but like I said, our numbers are high in the classrooms. There's no way that we can get 6 feet apart in those rooms, and so if we
But it was 3 feet.
Is it 3 feet
3
or
feet.
6?
6 feet
3
without
if you're wearing a
masks.
mask, 6
If
feet.
you have a
Yeah.
mask, it's 3.
Yeah, it's 3 feet with mask and then 6 feet.
Okay.
So, I mean, 25, 26 kids in a room, they would be in corners, it just wouldn't work.
Well, the
so.
guidelines have been
Yeah.
set up to where you
And-
know, they're
At
forcing
the-
that, they're
at the
forcing
high
the mask.
school,
yes.
So we
that-
thought, let's get them at least so we can just teach them. Like, that's our main goal, let's teaching these kids, and so, whatever helps us do that best is what I wanna do.
What I've done at the high school, because the cafeteria is my biggest concern always, because most of my class sizes are small enough where we're able to get the 3 feet distance, but in the cafeteria, obviously you can't. So the guidelines say 15 minutes of exposure. So, you know, we've got people on duty, and as soon as those kids are done eating, we're trying to get them out and into the gym where they can spread out and stuff like that. And like everybody said, it is a game. I mean, and whether you believe the science that they're using or anything, it's just, you know, they've handed us a set of guidelines, and the politicians have pitted the school boards against their communities in this by not taking any responsibility themselves. And it's tough, and I don't want it to be misconstrued that I think it's an athletic problem. It just, right now, it's football players
That's
that
been where our
cause
first
it. But
positives were.
But you know, I tell those kids all the time, regardless, they're student athletes. The student comes first before the athlete. So they're students first, and I don't care if we have to cancel a game or they miss a game. But if they miss a week worth of physics or a week worth of chemistry, that's going to put them behind. And that's always been my concern from the very beginning of this, is that I'm sending kids off to college, and you know, the past couple of years, I'm sending kids off to college that I don't know, you know, how they're going to do, because, you know, we had limited contact with them. And I'd like to think that my teachers did a great job throughout all this, but, you know, like Mr. Hagan brought up, there's the psychological aspect that they've gone through the past 2 years, regardless of the mask. There's a psychological aspect of just living in a pandemic that is playing with their minds too. So, you know, whatever the board decides, I'm going to support, and I'm going to continue to you know, do what I can do to keep the kids safe. But
well, I know, you know, just this weekend alone, you know, for all of us, you know, it was busy. It was definitely busy. One thing that Mrs. Handis and I kind of talked about yesterday after church, and we had these conversations, is that you know, I had a positive staff member in my building. Well, the first thing that we say is, well, are they vaccinated? You know, it's like, well, if they're vaccinated, maybe the guidelines are different. Nope, doesn't matter. So, and that's where, you know, that's where you kind of you're getting burnt, because being vaccinated doesn't take quarantine, doesn't take the spread, doesn't stop that stuff right now. The only thing that they're allowing us to do to stop that is a mask. So if that teacher were wearing a mask, I'd have that teacher for the next, you know, for the week. But because of that, I lose that teacher, number one. Number two, we are not given, you know, staff are not given sick days to revert back to like they did in the past. They got to burn their sick days. We got to discuss game plans of how can we continue the education for those kids. And it's not that a substitute cannot continue that education, but right now we are extremely limited with our subs as far as who's willing to come into the buildings and take on that responsibility. And a lot of times, and I hate to say this, but you know, we joke about it, but it's true. You need a warm body that stays awake with those kids, and that's a substitute in a lot of cases, and it's scary. But you know, we don't have we don't have a large number of great subs that can come in and take over a classroom and continue teaching for 10 days. And having that teacher continue to provide resources and continue to educate the same, we do our best, we make the best with what we can, but it is not the same as having an educator in the classroom and having that information. So it does make it tough.
I just want to clarify that if we have a vaccinated student or staff member who is considered a close contact, who is not positive, they don't have to quarantine. They can stay, they just have to wear a mask
Right.
for 14 days.
Right.
But if
They
they
only have to
are,
quarantine if they develop symptoms.
correct,
Right.
if they are vaccinated and are positive, then they have to isolate just like somebody who is not vaccinated.
Sorry.
Can I say one other thing? So, just to be clear, and I get all this, what you guys are saying, and I'm glad I'm here because I'm not against you. But I know you don't mean it per se, but you say you're calling it, we're playing the game. And you say that to me sounds like we're not even looking at what matters or what doesn't matter, what's real, what's not real, what's science, what's not science. We're going to play a game. You play a game every Friday, right?
Not this Friday.
Not this Friday, but you play a game. We're playing a game, or are we going to do this? What matters, what's real? I hate that there's no game on Friday. It doesn't matter that much.
No.
I love being there last Friday. But if you're going to play the game with this, then the vaccine will be next. And you're going to sit there and say, we got to play the game, they got to be vaccinated. That's what's going to be next. That's why I really care so much about this right now, because I see what's coming.
No, I agree, and when I say play the game,
I know you don't mean that.
I don't mean we're
We have to
playing a
follow
game,
guidelines.
but
Right.
unfortunately, the reality is they're going to shut us down. I mean, I think that's what we're trying to prevent.
It won't
is-
just be here, though. It's going to be everywhere.
Oh
now.
no, I know, and I'm 100% on board with you. I have kids in the school system. I've been in medicine for 20 years. I know what's real and what's not real. There's been less than 1% transmission in the last year that is linked to any school transmission. That's just the reality. Most of the transmission has been out in the community with adults and stuff, but unfortunately, they don't care. They shut us down. So I think that's where we have to just have the discussion.
So it doesn't matter then.
Right.
Well,
If you,
It doesn't matter if they shut us down, but what does matter is if I get 300 kids out at the high school, which is very possible. 300 kids quarantined if I'm not wearing masks in the high school. We're shutting down, and that's not the state telling me to shut down. That's me looking at Ms. Hannison saying, I don't have enough kids here to continue with an education, and at that point I'm sending kids home, and they're getting zero education.
that's going to be at every school, and okay, let's say you shut down. That's going to get attention, one way or the other, and somebody's going to have to make a move somewhere that you don't have to make. I get all that if you're out a week at your level. I've seen what it does to a kid if you take them on vacation for a week. I get it. We got to take a stand now on our freedoms. Whether it matters about this or not, it's going to be the next step. I get that what you're saying, and we don't want to be out. It's the second week of school.
Right. And that's
But
the
what
unfortunate.
did you not have a meeting like this a month ago to talk about it or whatever? What was it that I wasn't there? What was at that meeting? Why was it okay then and not now? Because there's no football game on Friday? Don't let that, love you, Coach, make your decision here. Okay? This is about freedoms. It's not about that. It's about what's going to happen next. You read off stuff there because other people told you that, but there's no science behind it. So it shouldn't matter if you showed me it was working, then it would matter. You can tell I'm passionate, and we could get through a mask thing. I get it, but it's about what's going to be next, and it's coming soon. I think today, if I understood right, I heard Pfizer it may make this vaccine a help me out, I'm nervous.
It'll get full FDA approval.
FDA.
Approval.
Right,
Yeah.
yeah, and they
That
can't,
scares
they
me.
can't mandate it until it's FDA approved.
Exactly.
But if they get the
So-
approval, but
I don't know whether that's going to happen or it's true or not. But if that happens, are you going to be having a meeting like this? And then you're going to say, well, we got to play on Friday, so we got to get vaccinated or they can't play. You get what I'm saying?
no, we,
So that's what's not, and my kids won't be here if that ever happens. They won't be in school because they're not going to get that shot. I've seen enough, and it's not even being out there. What's going on with these shots? It's not. They're hiding it. It's not conspiracy. They're hiding it. Okay? Take a stand now. If we're out, it's going to get attention. Other schools are going to be out and be in same positions. If it's happening here, it's not just in Barnesville. It's going to be in others bigger schools with more kids together. It's going to happen to them too. So think about this when you guys vote. I don't have an answer either that's going to be a great one. But it's not to mask our kids again. Because when are you going to then, what's going to be the thing that says, okay, you can take them off now? You're going to leave them on all year. Because it'll happen with basketball and wrestling and or whatever. You're just going to leave them on all year is what you're going to do. You're going to have to make some kind of a reason to take them back off if you're going to give a reason like that to put them on. And I hate that it's in your decision. You have to do this. It's not fair to you guys either. It's on you now. Or last year, you were doing exactly what they told you. But the way it is on you, and I hate that it's on you like that. You probably didn't sign up for that when you ran for board member. Or when you decided to be a teacher or a principal or a coach. It stinks. Freedom. We said the Pledge of Allegiance before we started here. It's about freedom. Thanks.
we appreciate you coming and.
That's one, I'm the only parent here. I don't have anybody behind me.
I know.
I have to speak for everybody, and it's lopsided, especially, with such short notice. I could do a little bit better.
Scott, I would say you're not the only parent here.
No.
Katie and I both have kids.
Right,
and we
but
do
you
too,
know what I
and a
mean.
lot of them do
I have two
too.
of them in here too.
We all share this feeling with you. I mean, I wouldn't have the discussion I would if I didn't, have these same thoughts. It's a hard decision. I think, it's hard for me to make that decision for other parents. And I think there needs to be stress there first, but I struggle with it as well. It's a tough thing to do, but we have kids here too that are dealing with this stuff.
Is it unfortunate the football game was canceled? Yeah, but is that what's most important? No.
No.
These kids being in school is what most important.
I think that's just what prompted the
Right,
discussion.
and
is
football,
that was where we had
football,
our first
all these athletics, they bring these kids together, and it kind of raises their thoughts and stuff about being in school. It's something that they enjoy to do, and then when you cancel one, and those kids are okay. If I'm going to wear a mask to play football, they're probably going to do it. Or play volleyball or whatever. But we don't want to shut down. If you shut down, then there's nothing.
Because then they're going to take the shot because
I understand what you're saying. Trust me, I'm on board with you 100%. I'm not saying, like you said, a game, but it's just. I talked to a couple newspaper guys yesterday. Until something changes, this is going to get worse, and you're going to have college football game. Everything's going to be canceled. Ohio State being canceled due to a COVID case. It's just going to continue. It's never going to stop because COVID is not going away.
Should we go into executive?
You can't go into executive during an emergency meeting.
Okay.
You can table this if you want to, or you can vote on it, but
Okay,
that's
well,
pretty much our options.
is there an option, just throwing this out there, to, even if we don't make a decision right now, maybe meet weekly? I know it's a pain in the butt or something, but just to reassess where we're at, if it gets worse, then we make a decision, or what's everybody's thoughts on that, or?
I have a cumulative spreadsheet that tells me the updates, and I'm living the updates.
I know.
So
I know.
if you guys have any questions, you can call me at the school anytime and ask me, Ron, what's it
Right.
looking like right now? Where are we at?
I keep a as best as I can, up to date,
Right.
COVID information right there on the website, so it's right there on the front page, it gets all the active cases, all the cumulative cases.
Right.
Doesn't give you the cases in quarantine, but at least it'll give you the active and cumulative positives.
And if you wanna know exactly how many are in quarantine and for what reasons they're in quarantine, you can call any of the building principals, or
Right.
we have that information.
Well, and Angie's pretty good at when she sends us a update, you know, they're in quarantine because of close contact or because, you know.
Thank you for not doing the all-call for every positive again, by the way. I felt bad for you.
I can reinstate that.
That was not fun last year.
No.
I was glad when the state told us we could quit doing that.
Yeah.
I personally would be in favor of doing the meeting, you know, if things get, if we keep seeing this
Reconvening,
progress
yeah.
of reconvening and assessing it, you know, I feel good about that. That's just me.
Okay. What are you,
Anyway,
tabling it
maybe.
and reconvening, or?
Like I said, if you don't wait till it gets worse, we'll wait till it gets worse, I guess.
I don't like wearing a mask either.
I don't either.
And I understand these little kids. If any place, I mean, I know he's got kids in high school, but if any place and like he said, try it in the one building, don't do it in another. I think that's not a terrible idea. So the high schools where we got it, if we are going to require a mask, I think it ought to be there. And let the other two buildings be and just keep an update on it and go from there, but.
Well, unfortunately, the Ohio Department of Education doesn't
we don't
care
have-
about our personal experiments, you know,
Yeah.
either, that's the only thing is.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that would tell us whether we have to mandate a mask or we don't mandate a mask. If they're not getting it down here and they're not wearing a mask, and I don't know, but.
Well, we see it in the high schoolers because they're social, they're out and about more, and they're, you know.
Well, it's just like a person told me yesterday, there's parents that know their kids have had close contact or whatever, and they tell them not to say anything and go do what they're gonna do, play
Which
ball.
is-
or
That's
whatever.
another thing we were
I mean,
dealing with.
How do you
was-
stop that? I don't know.
That's-
How
Well,
do
I
you
think
stop
that's why
that?
Blake had to make the decision to not do practice for a week, which maybe we should have
Yeah.
done originally, whatever, but because you can't trust them, or some that really don't have major symptoms. You know, I heard maybe a couple boys didn't have their smell and taste, but they weren't sick, so.
And we
We
have
just-
to rely on what we're being told.
Right,
Yeah,
I
I
mean,
mean,
I was called at 10:30 on Saturday about a girl who might have been in close contact, and she plays volleyball. And I tell the coach, and I don't know, she might have blatantly lied to me, I don't know, but her mom calls me saying, no, she hasn't been around him since
That's what I'm
Wednesday.
saying. That's
Yeah.
what I'm saying, they're just.
I mean, is that true?
I mean, you have to take their word for it.
I have to take their
yeah.
word for it.
Right.
That's unfortunate.
Yeah, you can't say you're lying.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
Right.
That ain't a very good idea either.
Yeah.
And I
But
hate that it's
I
pitted
kinda
neighbor
agree with
against
that, and I
neighbor
think
too.
maybe we
Yeah.
kinda monitor it a little bit and.
I don't know, my
Especially
thoughts
on
are
the
tabling
little
it for
kids.
now, maybe reconvening in a week or rediscussing in a week, just so also people don't think we're making a super rash decision. That they're at least being heard and this is being thought out.
Are you gonna make the meeting public somehow about what was discussed, or? I don't know if you,
They're public meetings, so.
I mean, there's nobody really recording anything, so it's just gonna be what somebody remembers of the meeting.
Yeah, I mean,
If we call a
we
meeting.
always open
there,
it for people,
it's
obviously this
open
was
for
last
public.
minute, but
Yeah. Why was it at 7 a.m?
we usually do, cause we all work.
Yeah.
When we do special meetings, we usually do 7, well, except for Kenny
Well,
May.
yeah, Kenny Mack doesn't, but, yeah.
But just so that we can still make it to work.
If you could do maybe an evening next time, but if you're gonna do it in another week,
Yeah,
I mean, there's no way to
We
get
plan ahead,
more of
then.
me here, which I know you probably don't want, but
No, that's
'Cause
fine. That's
there's gonna
great.
be other parents that are gonna argue the other way, and that's fine too. But like you said, I mean, what's gonna be the criteria to say, well, this week we gotta do it? Is it, you know? I know you don't really have one, and that's the trouble here.
yeah.
thank you if you can extend it at least.
Right.
So we have, what, 6 positive cases on the football team, but those football players also go to the high school, right?
They
We
also
Those
have
football
5
players
high
also go to
schoolers.
the high school.
Yeah,
So
that's
they
why I was
probably were in
quarantined.
contact with
Yeah,
somebody,
that's
so
why we had to
this
close
week,
contact.
That's
we're gonna have more show up at the high
Well,
school.
that's where some of the quarantines came from, wasn't it? Is
Yeah.
because they were in closer
Yes.
contact at lunch. It wasn't
Lunch and
them
it
being out
wasn't-
on the football
yeah, it was
field.
Right,
It was,
but I'm saying they're still in the building, so they were in contact with more than what we know of.
Oh,
And
yeah.
they have
Well,
siblings from other buildings
yeah.
that are in quarantine.
yeah.
Yes.
If you
So
leave
they
your
were
house,
down
period,
in other
you're
buildings,
gonna come
so-
in contact with people, so.
This week's gonna be worse.
Losing staff is always a concern as
Right.
well, especially in my building. You know, that even happened last year, but, you know, losing staff is a concern that we just have to monitor that as well.
Losing staff is why the high school had to
Yeah,
close.
that's the only reason that the high school shut
Yeah.
last year is because I didn't have enough
Yeah,
staff to staff the
We had
building.
6
Yeah,
teachers
there's
out of
eight
one.
teachers at once.
Yeah. Okay. Can we table it for now and then set another date to get together?
Do you want to set a date, or do you want to have something as needed?
Or just as needed?
I like the spreadsheet when we get that, being able to see that, you know, I mean, if that means I need to call and, you know, talk to you guys and then, you know, disseminate that information, whatever it ends up being, whatever's the easiest way for you guys, but I like seeing this to know, you know, where the numbers are. I mean, so yeah,
Spreadsheets based on positive tests.
based on who the positive tests are in the school.
Positives.
Remember what I said about
Yeah.
the tests?
So, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just saying,
I know.
we have to use what we have
I know.
available to us to be able to assess what it's looking like in the school. One thing that they all have been very good about when we have those tests is the kid got that from, you know, outside the school, or has it been because of a contact in the school? I'm not so much, the positive test, I agree, there's a lot of questions there, but at least if we're seeing in the school, we've got quarantine happening because this kid got it from the kid, and now we know this kid got it from that in school. Now we start to have a situation where, you know, we just at least need to have the discussion, so.
I mean, just last year alone, middle school wise, we had 1 positive in the school as a student. But that's where, like we say, the quarantines, you know, aside from this incident with the athletics, most of our quarantines are outside of school.
Yeah.
It's parents, friends hanging out at parents' houses, and a parent tests positive and they have to quarantine. That's where a lot of our quarantines have came from, at least in the middle school wise. You know, but that's also the hard part. Again, you're still quarantining people, and the hardest part is 65 days. I mean, you just, a 5-person household could be detrimental to any kid, no matter what you do.
Or me or Katie's house with,
Yeah, you can. Yeah, me too. Make it
8
worse.
kids and 8 people.
Yeah.
No, I agree. I mean, Casey, that's the hardest part of this last year. We talked about that
Yeah.
was, you know, you could do everything you want in the school, but if
It
it,
won't
you
matter.
know, but yeah, I don't speak for the others. I'm fine when it has needed to follow up with you guys, you know, at the end of the week and see.
Mm-hmm. Alright,
Go on down the.
okay, any new business,
None,
old business,
none.
announcements?
The football game's canceled. I think that was my announcement, sorry, yeah.
Okay, motion to adjourn,
So moved.
motion by Mr. Brugman, second by Mr. Triplett.
Mr. Bruggeman?
Yes.
Mr. Triplett?
Yes.
Mr. Huntsman?
Yes.
Mrs. Devlin?
Yes. Motion approved at 7:59.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thanks
sir.
Thanks, Scott.
coming.
Thanks for coming.